reached the end of the Kaiju Shelf. I've watched 41 movies to prepare for this moment, and now it's time to watch the movie that I did all of this for. It is time for the lizard to fight the monkey. It is time for... This movie was wild. Honestly, I think had I not muted most of the words relating to it on Twitter, it wouldn't have impeded my viewing experience of this movie that much, because it's all so insane. I will say that it's kind of weird that Godzilla gets top billing in this film when the movie is very much Kong's. This is all whilst the original movie from 1963 has King Kong as the top bill character, when it is much more of a Godzilla film. I mean, I guess if you slapped an S after Godzilla in the title, it would probably be more accurate, as we have both Godzilla and Mechagodzilla in this film. This film is just, in general, way more sci-fi than I expected. There's this weird Truman Show type dome thing that contains Kong at the beginning of the film. There's holograms now. There's weird glowy spaceships that take you inside the hollow Earth. There's a lot here, and hell, the last movie was pretty sci-fi with all the ships and bases that it had, but this takes it to a completely different level. There's even this cute little spider robot thing that drills out a little hole in the hollow earth thing to get some whatever, and that's cute. Who doesn't love a cute little robot? The original King Kong vs. Godzilla had a pharmaceutical company just completely fabricate a rivalry between King Kong and Godzilla to, drum up publicity. Here, their rivalry is very much real. Hell, in general, Godzilla is just pretty pissed about everything. He's busy trying to deal with whatever the fuck is happening with Mechagodzilla, and here the humans are just letting Kong roam free? How very dare they? When it comes to the stakes of the fights, it's very much the same as a film like Batman vs Superman. A film I didn't like all that much. In the first scuffle between them, Kong wins, and then in the second scuffle, it's Godzilla. And then a greater threat rises up and they both need to put aside their differences to team up and fight it. Unlike BVS though, I think it does work out far better here, because these are just big monsters at the end of the day. They're not super intelligent. They're not meant to be the goodest men alive, they're just big, dumb monsters who are just predisposed to fighting each other. There certainly isn't a case where they can just talk it out at any given moment. Thank fuck we don't get speech bubbles from them here. Not to mention that their rivalry is ancient and baked straight into their genes. And generally, they don't have a Lex Luthor here to tell them to fight. They're just big monsters who are just gonna fight. Besides, had that fight gone on and Mechagodzilla not appeared, Godzilla would have won the fight. I don't think there's much debate about that. The fights themselves are a lot better than King of the Monsters. They've toned down the particle effects massively, everything is in general just better lit. It all works just far, far better. In previous movies, I have wondered why Godzilla doesn't use his atomic breath more often, and it turns out it can be overused. He uses it a lot here, and I don't think it always works for me, especially when he is using it in short bursts. For me, the atomic breath always felt somewhat uncontrollable. Like once you've started, it's quite difficult to stop, which lends itself to just longer bursts of fire. Here there's a lot of rapid fire, and this is completely down to personal preference, but it's just not for me as much as previous uses of the power. Millie Bobby Brown's character in this movie is full-on conspiracy theorist, and that really threw me through a loop. Not that it doesn't make sense, it makes complete sense, but it, was still surprising. It did mean we saw the return of the kids sneaking around trope, although I did prefer it far more here because it felt quite natural with the conspiracy theorist investigation angle. Plus, the place they're investigating is entirely lit with neat neon-y lights. I dig that. Mechagodzilla is in this film, and that was something I knew going into it, unfortunately, but I was still surprised at how he was used. When you first see Godzilla show up, you're kind of expecting it to be Mechagodzilla, or at least I was. Coming out of the first fight, I was like, yes, that is Mechagodzilla. That's why he's not roaring as much, lads. I've cracked the code. No, he's just Godzilla. Mechagodzilla still isn't quite working yet and is in an underground bunker. He's meant to be controlled from some psychic connection Pacific Rim bullshit from inside one of Ghidorah's skulls. But then, because, of course it does, it gets disconnected from the system and just goes rogue. And then, they all fight, and that's all you need to know. Probably a bit more than you need to know, honestly. Personally, I feel like Mechagodzilla is over-designed as hell. There's just so much going on. I quite like the simplicity of the classic Mechagodzilla. There's something quite nice in that. But here, there's just a lot of panels and moving parts, and everything just feels quite cluttered, not unlike the pre-Bumblebee Transformers movies. As a complete side note, I wish that I liked Tom Holkenborg's stuff. I'm talking in general here, not just this film. It all just sounds quite generic, and I wish that I felt something whenever I heard a theme, rather than just feeling nothing. This was coming off the last movie that used leitmotifs really, really well, and, trusted leitmotifs at that. And here, they just didn't. And I think this goes for a lot of his stuff outside of this film too. It's made to sound epic and cool without sounding much like anything. And that is just a massive shame. I don't want to throw shit at this one man in particular. It was just this kind of big disappointment to me after the loveliness that was Bear McCreary's score for the last film. And I will say, I didn't always find Bear McCreary's score to be stellar, but at least it had some recognisable themes and motifs that would pop up when monsters would appear and fight. All in all, this movie is a wild time. Whilst I always knew where we were going, this film took some massive gonzo leaps, especially in the second half. I'm trying to keep these fairly short, and this one is already long as hell. But I will just quickly say that I really like that this movie creates this really touching and tender relationship between Kong and this small deaf girl, and I really like that she is played by an actual deaf actress, as far as I know. That's super sweet and nice. I did really enjoy myself with this film. I don't know whether it's actually any good or not, but I'm not sure whether that's even the point. At the end of the day, we are just here to watch the monsters fight, and this movie had plenty of that, so you know what, I'm happy. And that is the Kaiju Shelf. I have one more video left to do, and that will be an overall wrap-up, so, feel free to watch that, or any of the other videos that you may not have watched along the way. I really hope that this series inspires you to watch at least something on this list, be that Kong, Gamera, or The Host. But you know what? Just thanks for watching.